Welcome to the video solutions for the AQA Functional Skills English Level 2 writing paper for January 2020. In this video we will go through the questions and you can get a better idea of what you want your answers to look like, as well as what to look out for when planning your answers. Before we take a look at the questions, let's have a look at the criteria that you'll be marked on so that you understand what you are being assessed on. So you need to craft a fit-for-purpose response with an appropriate level of development to engage the reader and using appropriate register. So that means that your response needs to be engaging. It needs to draw the reader in, and it needs to have an appropriate level of development. So you need to be including details and developing your ideas by explaining them with reasons or adding additional information. It has to be fit for purpose, so you have to consider the purpose that you've been asked to write for and adapt your response to the question. You also need to use an appropriate register or tone, so you need to adapt what you're writing to the audience. If you're writing for a professional audience, you'll want to use a formal tone and register, and if you're writing for, say, a friend, you would want to use an informal tone and register. You want to use appropriate formatting and make sure that your answer's the right length. So you'll often be given a word count and you need to try and stay within that. And you also need to include appropriate formatting features based on the text type. So for example, if you're writing an article, you'll need to include a heading, perhaps use subheadings and include paragraphs. You need to use a range of simple and complex words and phrases correctly. So vary the sentence structures that you're using and use a range of words and phrases. Use a variety of sentence structures, including complex sentences, correctly. So again, making sure that both your word choices and your sentence structures are varied throughout the text. Use some longer sentences and shorter sentences, use longer words and shorter words. And make sure that any words that you're using are suitable for the task. You want to provide a clear and logical sequencing of points in your text. So think before you start writing your answer how you're going to order the points you want to make in a logical way. And you need to include an appropriate level of detail for the purpose. So read the question carefully and think about appropriate details that you can include in the answer. We also need to consider spelling, punctuation and grammar. So make sure that your spelling is correct and can convey your meaning effectively. Try to use specialist words in your answers as well that are adapted to the specific purpose of the text. You also need to demarcate your sentences correctly. So that means that you're using capital letters at the start of each sentence and full stops at the end. And you need to be using a range of other punctuation correctly. So for example, you want to be using commas and apostrophes accurately. You need to use these markers to ensure smooth and efficient reading. So make sure that your punctuation is helping the reader rather than hindering them when they're reading. So helping to make your meaning really clear. You need to make sure that you have few grammatical errors. So all of your writing needs to make sense. You also need to use modality devices appropriately. So modality devices include modal verbs like might, could, will or should. So make sure that you are doing that correctly and make sure that you have some subject and verb agreement within your answers. So for example, you would say I think, but you would say he or she thinks. So you need to make sure that you're changing verbs depending on the subject that you're using. So make sure that your spelling, punctuation and grammar are accurate, as well as having a good composition for your text. Question 1. You have come across the following through a link on a news website. Turn it off. Young people are distracted from the important things in life by their mobile phones. Lack of sleep, mental health issues, and inability to concentrate. These things are linked to spending too much time looking at a screen. The government is now looking for simple ideas to get people away from their screens. Send us some ideas and explain why you think they would work. We're giving £50 for the best submissions. Contact us at email@turnitoff.gov.uk. You wish to enter this competition. Write an email explaining your ideas and why you think they would be successful. Your email should be approximately 150 to 200 words. So let's think about what we're being asked to do in this question. It's really important that when you first look at a question, you identify the text type that you're being asked to write. This will help to give you some ideas about the purpose and will show you which formatting and organisational features you need to be using. So we've been told that we need to write an email. So we need to consider that in our planning. We also need to think about the purpose of the text. So our purpose is to explain our ideas and explain why we think they would be successful. So if we are explaining these ideas and they want only the best submissions from us, then we need to be persuasive. So we need to persuade people that our ideas to get people away from their screens are the best. And we need to write 150 to 200 words. So that gives us some idea of how detailed our answer should be. We've also got some additional information here that might help us to create a persuasive answer. So if we include these details such as mental health issues and then say that we have a way to resolve them, then our answer will be persuasive. So plan out your own answer and then we'll take a look at a model solution so you can get a better idea of how you're going to meet the marking criteria. So the model answer is as follows. Plan to reduce screen time for young people. Dear Sir or Madam, my idea is to create an app that rewards people for taking a break from their phone. Users would be able to log into the app, which would shut off social media apps on their phone for a certain amount of time. For every 25 minutes a user is able to avoid browsing on social media, they will be awarded 10 points. As users earn more points, they will be able to move around a virtual map and collect prizes, such as free theme park tickets and book vouchers. Another idea is to encourage children to spend more time outside by increasing government funding for clubs and activities. This sector has been starved of investment in recent years, and this has to change. Schools could host free activity sessions where children can learn how to play different board games. These game sessions could also involve assistance from older members of the community. This would teach children important skills for life, as well as providing a great opportunity for different generations to socialise. I hope that you like my suggestions. Yours faithfully, Harry Terps. So how does this answer meet the marking criteria? Let's start by taking a look at the punctuation that has been used. So every sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop, and you need to make sure that you are consistently doing this in your answers. We also have capital letters for proper nouns, so we've got, for example, Sir, Madam. These are sort of official addresses, so they need to be capitalised, and we have capitalisation of the name at the bottom here. We've also got some commas that have been used throughout the answer, and these divide up different ideas within the sentences into different clauses to make it easier for the reader to read. So for example, we have for every 25 minutes a user is able to avoid browsing on social media, comma, they will be awarded 10 points. And as users earn more points, comma, they will be able to move around a virtual map and collect prizes, comma. such as free theme park tickets and book vouchers. So can you see how here commas have been used to add some additional information to sentences and to break up sentences into different parts to make it easier for the reader to understand? If you're not sure where to add commas, then think about where you would take a breath when you're reading it out loud and add in commas whenever you take a short pause. Other punctuation can be used in your answers as well. So at the end here we have an exclamation mark to add a little bit of emotion to the answer. But we don't have a huge range of punctuation that has been used here, and that is absolutely fine because commas, capital letters and full stops have all been used effectively. If you feel confident, try to use a wider range of punctuation and be a little bit more ambitious. But if you're unsure, then just focus on making sure that you've got the basics down. You're using capital letters, full stops, commas and apostrophes if necessary correctly. Next, let's think about grammar. So you need to make sure that everything makes sense in your answers and all of your nouns and verbs are matching up together. You should also make sure that you are not getting confused between singular words and plural words. So for example, we've got users moving around a virtual map and collecting prizes, such as free theme park tickets and book vouchers. Now, because we've said prizes, multiple, we have to also use plurals for the theme park tickets and the book vouchers. So all of the items in this sentence are plural to make it consistent. And you need to make sure that all of your sentences are making sense like that and you're not making any silly mistakes and getting confused in your answers, because that will make it more difficult for the reader to understand. You also need to ensure that your spelling is correct and you're using some longer, more specialist words that might be trickier to spell. Spelling is correct throughout this answer and we have some more difficult to spell words. So for example, we have activity, and we've got different, and we have assistance. If you're struggling with your spelling, then go back to the basics and try to practice your spelling of shorter, simpler words. The more spelling that you can get accurate throughout your answers, the higher marks you will get. Ensuring good spelling, punctuation and grammar will help to make your meaning clear, and reading out your answers afterwards and checking it through for any mistakes will help you to make sure that your answer is really clear and everything will make sense to the reader. You also need to ensure that your answers are an appropriate length for the question. So you'll often be given a word count in the question. Here we've been told to write 150 to 200 words. And this answer meets that word count. So you'll have to make sure that your own answers are matching that too. The details that have been included are relevant to the question. So we've got the question tells us that we are trying to get people away from their screens, so reduce screen time, and the focus of this answer is reducing screen time throughout. The ideas are proposed to the government specifically because they're applying for government funding to a government email there. And we've got a really good explanation of the ideas. So we've been told to explain our ideas and they have explained, for example, how the app works. So for every 25 minutes, a user is able to avoid browsing, they will be awarded 10 points, and as users earn more points, they will be able to move around a virtual map and collect prizes. So this is providing a really detailed explanation of what the app does. They've also explained why they think this second idea would be successful in the second paragraph here. So they've explained that it would teach children important skills for life, so talking a little bit about the benefits there, and explaining how the sessions would be run. So they could involve older members of the community, for example. So try to think of a range of relevant details that you can include in your answers. If you're struggling to add detail, try to explain your ideas further and come up with different reasons. Next, let's think about how this answer has been formatted. So when you're writing your answers, you'll need to lay them out in a specific way depending on the text type. Here we've been told that we need to write an email, and an email has certain features that you need to include. So we've helpfully got a sort of grid laying out what we need to do. So we've got a to address to include here, and make sure that if you are given a to address in the question, then you are writing to that in the answer. We've also got a subject line. Now a subject line just gives a short summary of what the email is going to be about, and this email is about a plan to reduce screen time for young people. We've then got a polite address, so dear sir, madam, because we don't know the name of this recipient. And then at the end we have a sign off, yours faithfully. Now remember that yours faithfully is used when we don't know the recipient's name, and yours sincerely is used when we do know their name. Finally, we have the name of the sender. We've also got paragraphs, and you need to be using paragraphs in every single answer that you write. This will help to break up the text and make it easier for the reader to understand. Paragraphs should also flow in a logical order so that they are cohesive. So they link together and follow on from each other in a really logical way. So we've got the first paragraph, which explains one idea to reduce screen time. And then in the second paragraph, it moves on to another idea that could be used to reduce screen time. Finally, we have this little exclamation to make the ideas seem more exciting and appealing. So the paragraphs separate out information in a really logical way, talking about two different ideas in two different paragraphs. We've also got connected words and punctuation, and these have been used to make sentences and paragraphs a little bit more complex and cohesive. So for example, we have some connective words such as and to add additional information. So they will be able to move around a virtual map and collect prizes. So just adding a little bit more detail. And then we've also got as well as, which has a very similar role in this sentence. So this would teach children important skills for life. And then we've got a comma and the connective as well as to add some additional information. So it will also provide a great opportunity for different generations to socialise. So try to link your ideas together to help the answer flow effectively, and make sure that your paragraphs are organised in a logical order. Now let's think about the language and register that have been used in the answer. So you need to make sure that your answers have an appropriate tone and style to match up with the audience and purpose that you were given in the question. This answer is really well suited to the purpose of the text. So we were asked to come up with some ideas to reduce people's screen time, get people away from their screens. And this answer definitely addresses that throughout. So we've come up with two different ideas and given some details about how they will help to reduce screen time and why they will be beneficial. The answer is also really well suited to the audience. So the audience in this question we know is the government. The government is looking for these ideas, and we have been told that we need to use a government email address, .gov.uk. So it's a government organisation. So we need to be adapting to that audience. We don't know the name of who we're writing to. We're just writing to someone from the government. So we've got dear sir or madam used and yours faithfully at the end. We've also got a really clear understanding of the audience shown by mentioning the government in the answer. So increasing government funding. This shows that the person that we're writing to might have the power to change this. We're writing in a really formal style. Because we're writing to the government, this is a group of professionals, so we need to remain formal throughout the answer. So there's no use of slang, no colloquial language, and there's no contractions like can't or won't. Instead, you would use cannot or will not in a formal answer. The tone of the answer is quite hopeful because we're trying to encourage the government and persuade them that our ideas are the best. So we have adjectives like great opportunity for different generations to socialise. And we have this nice, I hope you like my suggestions at the end with a little bit of an exclamation to make the answer a little bit less formal and to draw the reader in. We could possibly include some more persuasive techniques, so some more persuasive adjectives, some emotive language, rhetorical questions maybe, and more frequent use of direct address, so the use of you to really draw the reader in and get them interested in our ideas. But overall, this answer is really well adapted to the audience and the purpose. The answer also includes some longer, more complicated sentences that join different ideas together. So we've already seen how commas can be used to add information and connectives can be used for that as well. If we look at this sentence here, this would teach children important skills for life as well as providing a great opportunity for different generations to socialise. We can see that multiple ideas have been included in this sentence. So we've linked to the previous sentence by saying this would, so these sessions with the older members of the community, this would teach children important skills for life. So we're explaining the impact of the previous, the sort of sessions that were mentioned in the previous sentence. And then we go on to use a connective as well as, and a comma there, to add some additional information. So providing a great opportunity for different generations to socialise. So we've got an opinion included in there, a great opportunity, and then explaining why this is a great opportunity, because different generations can socialise. So try to include some longer sentences in your answers to really link your ideas together and show the examiner that you have a good understanding. But make sure that any sentences you include are not so long that they stop making sense. You want to just include a range of different sentences, short, medium and long. So overall, we've got a really fantastic answer to this question. The spelling, punctuation and grammar are really strong, and that helps to make the meaning of this answer really clear. We've got relevant details that have been included and fully explained in line with the question. So we've fully addressed the audience and the purpose that were given in the question. And we have used an appropriate layout for an email. So we've used the formatting features that are required. So now that you've had a look at this answer, have a go at writing your own answer using this for inspiration, and then have another check of the marking criteria and see if you've met every single point there. Question 2. You are a volunteer at branbyville.com, a community leisure website. Your digital editor has asked you to visit Wild World Adventure Park and write a review. Wild World Adventure Park, Angleford Meadows, Branby. Manager Tracy Johnson. Exotic animals, safe environment, great leisure facilities, swimming pool, karting track, scary rides. Restaurants and bars, educational courses. Prices: single visit £5, monthly multi-visit £20, annual multi-visit £180. Write a review of your experiences at Wild World for the community website, including any strengths and weaknesses you found. Remember to plan your answer, use correct spelling, punctuation and grammar, and write accurately in sentences and paragraphs. So what do we need to look for when we are deciding what to write for this question? Well, we need to read through the question very carefully and identify first the text type that we need to write. So we've been told that we need to write a review. So we need to make sure that we're including appropriate formatting features and fulfilling the purpose of a review. So reviews talk about strengths and weaknesses of a place or thing, and a review will also give personal opinions and it will perhaps give suggestions to the reader as well. What other details do we need to consider? Well, we need to consider the audience. Because we are writing for a community website, we will be writing for a local audience in the community. Finally, we need to consider the purpose. So we're a volunteer for this website and we need to review this place, Wild World Adventure Park. So we need to use the details. Here we could use the fact that it's got exotic animals. So we could talk about the types of animals that are available to see there. It says safe environment. You could explain what features made the environment feel safe or unsafe. Were the enclosures, did they look particularly structurally sound? Were there any issues? And then we could talk about the facilities as well. So was the swimming pool hygienic? What was the karting track like? Was it fun? And what were the rides like? Did they look like they were they appealing or were they boring rides? So we can use all of that information there and we can come up with our own ideas for the plan based on that. Make sure that you're always planning your answers before you get started. It can be tempting to just jump straight in and start writing, but if you don't have a plan, then you can run out of ideas fairly quickly and you won't be able to structure your answer effectively. So have a go at planning and then we'll take a look at a model answer. Hi readers, last week I was sent to Wild World as part of our push to review lower cost attractions in the area. First of all, the admission fee is fantastic value for money. For £5, you can experience a wonderful day out, packed with adventure. If you are considering visiting the park multiple times a month, I'd really recommend the monthly ticket for the best possible value. Another bonus of a day out at Wild World is the great range of activities for both younger and older children. While both ages can enjoy the rides and swimming pool, if older children get bored, the karting track is a great way for them to blow off steam. The exotic animals did not disappoint either. My youngest was amazed at the alligators, ostriches and zebras that roamed freely around the safari section. Despite the overall experience being very good, I found the vegetarian options in the restaurant to be quite basic. It is really important to accommodate those with different dietary needs, and I did mention this issue to a member of staff who agreed to pass on my comments to management. All in all, I would still recommend making the trip to Wild World. Despite the basic food options, I thought that the park had lots of fun activities on offer. So let's consider how this answer is meeting the marking criteria. And again, we will start with punctuation. So we've got capital letters being used at the start of each sentence and we have full stops at the end of each sentence. We've also used capitals for the names of people, places and organisations, otherwise known as proper nouns. So we've got Wild World, which is the name of an organisation or a place. We've also got commas that have been used throughout the answer to add further detail to sentences and to create some lists. So for example, we've got for £5 you can experience a wonderful day out, and that could be a sentence on its own, but we've added a comma so that we can add more detail, packed with adventure. We've also got exclamation marks throughout the answer to add some excitement and encourage readers to engage with the text. So we've got the karting track is a great way for them to blow off steam. and it is packed with adventure. Finally, we have a hyphen that has been used to join two words together to create a single word with its own meaning. So we've got lower cost. Now, on their own, lower and cost don't mean the same thing, but when you put them together, they create a single word with a single meaning. So try to use a range of punctuation in your answer. You also need to make sure that if you are using any apostrophes, that you're using them correctly. So for example, we've got I'd really recommend here. Now, that has been used as a contraction of I and would. And because we are missing lots of letters in the middle there, we have put an apostrophe where those missing letters would go. So most of the word would fit in the middle there. So make sure that you're using capital letters, full stops, commas and apostrophes correctly in your answers. Next, let's take a look at the grammar in this answer. So every single sentence makes sense on its own, and we've got singular and plural verb agreement. So the admission fee is fantastic value. Now, if we were talking about the multiple admission fees, so if there were, say, different admission fees depending on whether you were an adult or a child, it would say admission fees are fantastic value for money. But because we have a singular admission fee, we've used the word is. So make sure that your nouns and verbs are matching up. Also consider what tense you need to use in your answer. So this person has used present tense to describe what the place is like now, and they've used past tense throughout the answer as well to explain what their individual visit was like. So think about what tense you will need to answer the question. You'll also need to consider the spelling in your answer. Most of the spelling in this answer is correct, and we have some specialist words that align with the topic that are a bit more difficult to spell. So for example, we have the word exotic, and we've got alligators and ostriches. So try to include some specialist words that fit with the topic. If you struggle with spelling, then just remember that you just need to practice and maybe try reading as much as possible, because if you read, then you'll be able to familiarise yourself with how lots of different words are spelled. Good spelling, punctuation and grammar mean that this answer is really clear. So make sure that you read through your answer after you've written it to make sure that everything is making sense to you. Maybe try, if it is a practice answer, to get somebody else to read it and see if every single sentence makes sense to them. You also need to include appropriate details in your answers and make sure that they are an appropriate length. So we weren't given a word count for this question, but generally in your answers you should be writing anywhere between 150 to 300 words. And you should ensure that you include a large enough range of relevant details to fully answer the question. So this answer uses appropriate details and addresses all the different aspects of the question. If we had a look, we were told that we need to explain strengths and weaknesses of Wild World and review our experiences. So talk about the experiences and give some strengths and weaknesses. And that has definitely been considered in this answer. So the admission fee being fantastic value for money, that is one of the strengths. We've also got the cost of entry that was mentioned in the document that we were given in the question, and the mention of the monthly ticket as well, which was also mentioned in the question. We've got information about the facilities, so the rides, the pool and the karting. So rides, pool and the karting track, and all of these were mentioned on this little flyer that we were given in the question. So don't be afraid to try and use any documents that you're given to add some additional details. They can be really, really helpful. Next, let's think about formatting. So we know that we're going to have to choose an appropriate range of organisational features and formatting features to lay out our answer. And that depends on the text type that we're writing. So here we've been asked to write a review. Now sometimes you might be presented with a text type and you won't be familiar with the organisational features that you will need. So you'll need to think carefully about how to structure your answer. So in this case, think about any reviews that you might have seen before. Generally, reviews have a title and they generally have a number of stars or some kind of rating out of 10. So a 5-star review, for example. So it could be really good to try and include these features in your answer. In this one, we don't really have a lot of formatting or organisational features, so it would be really helpful to add those in. But we do have paragraphs, which is really helpful and effective to break up the text to make it easier for the reader to understand. If you were to write your own answer, you might want to think about adding bullet points or a numbered list of recommended activities for this question. Get creative with the organisational features and try and think about different ways that you could present information to make it interesting, engaging and clear for the reader. Organisational features can also help you to make your answers cohesive. So remember that you need to be linking ideas together and joining everything up so that your answer flows in a logical order. The paragraphs in this answer flow in a really logical way. So the first paragraph starts by explaining what they did last week. So they went to Wild World last week, and then we've got first of all used at the start of the next paragraph to explain what happened first and the things that stuck out to them the most. Then further on we have despite, which provides a contrast with all of the positive things that we've been talking about here. So we're moving on to talk about the negatives. So these are really good temporal phrases that have been used to structure the answer and link ideas in paragraphs together effectively. The paragraphs also flow in a logical order because we've got the first paragraph introducing what the review will be about. We've got the second one giving details about admission fees and activities available. And then we have another one about animals, then discussing the restaurant, and finally giving a conclusion with some overall opinions. Now, one thing that you might want to do is if you've got a really long paragraph like this, you might want to see if there's anywhere that it needs breaking up. So for example here, we're talking about admission prices for the first few sentences, and it could be broken up here because they start talking about the great range of activities on offer. So you could break it up at this point here to make it even clearer to the reader and divide up the information further. But overall, it flows in a really logical order and it makes sense. So try to make sure that everything is flowing on from each other. Your sentences are linked together and your paragraphs are linked as well. Now let's consider the language that has been used in this answer. So remember that your answers will need to consistently be matching up with the purpose and audience given in the question. This answer is really well suited to the purpose of the text because we've got a full explanation of what this person thought was good and bad about the trip, and we've got a range of facts and opinions that have been included to inform and persuade the reader. So for example, we've got details about what's on offer there, such as rides, the swimming pool and the karting track. So these are all facts. And we also have some opinions. So for example, she thinks, or he or she thinks that this is a great range of activities and a great way for them to blow off steam. So adding in some opinions there. And that's really useful for a review, to add your own opinions and ideas. We've also got a range of information and details from the question to fully adapt to the topic and the purpose. So we're focusing on Wild World throughout, and we mention it at the start and at the end as well, and we mention all of the different things that you can experience there. It's really well suited to the audience as well. So we've got quite a general audience here. We don't know the circumstances of the readers, and we've decided to go for an informal style to really try and persuade the reader to go there and to keep it sort of conversational. So we've got colloquial phrases included like blow off steam and all in all that have been used there. We've also got exclamations to make it seem really exciting and appealing to the reader. And we've got a generally positive tone because overall this person really likes the venue and wants to persuade the reader to go there. So we've got those persuasive techniques that have been included, such as exclamations, and we have direct address, so you can experience, and if you are considering, so speaking directly to the reader and trying to draw them into the text. We've got lots of positive adjectives like great, and we've also got some emotive language that is used as well. So all in all, a really persuasive text that is well suited to the audience and purpose. Finally, we've got some longer, more complicated sentences that have been included to link ideas together. So we've got, while both ages can enjoy the rides and swimming pool, if older children get bored, the karting track is a great way for them to blow off steam. So we've got lots of different ideas and pieces of information used here. We've explained that there are rides, there's a swimming pool and there's a karting track, so we've included those facts in there. We've also got some opinions, so both ages of children, so younger and older children, referring back to that previous sentence there, really good link between the two sentences. While both ages can enjoy these rides, if the older children get bored, so adding this conditional if in there, if the older children get bored, and then adding more ideas and an opinion here, so it's a great way for them to blow off steam. So connect your facts, opinions and ideas together in a logical way and try and make sure that your sentences flow on from one another. This can be quite tricky and it will require you to practice writing quite often, but you will get the hang of it eventually and you'll be able to really impress the examiner with your ability to connect ideas together. So now that you've seen what a really good answer looks like, you can have a go at writing your own effective answer to the question. Make sure that you are addressing all of the points in the question and you're adapting your writing to the audience and purpose that has been specified. Read through your answer and make sure that all of it makes sense and everything flows effectively. Ensure that you've used paragraphs and check for accurate spelling and accurate punctuation. And you will be sure to have some great written answers in no time.